On my right, we have Dave and Sherry Hubbard, who are the general chairman for the 57th, coming up in Wichita. On my left, we have Wayne and Janice Bowman, who are the general chairman for the 56th in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we hope all of you are registered for both conventions. And they are our newest member on the National Executive Committee, having been sworn in, so to speak, Monday a week ago. So they are week-old members. We do have in the audience Harry and Pat Nelson, who are the incoming president for the National Executive Committee. And we also have Ron and Cindy Shane, who are the general chairman for Louisville in 2010. I forget these numbers sometimes. As I tell people, I can remember what happened in the 5th grade, but I can't remember what happened last week. We also have a bidding city with us from Detroit, which is Lewis and Nancy Freelander. We are happy to see 2 or 3 callers with us, and so we're looking forward to an interesting hour. When Jerry called or sent us an email and asked us if we would do something on the Nationals, it was good. The first National CALLERLAB convention that we attended was in '96 in Kansas City. Ron Jacobs and myself went out there representing the 47th. They had never had a National Square Dance Convention attend their convention prior to that. They had always invited the NEC president, and they felt like that represented all the conventions. And while the president did promote the Nationals, they didn't promote each individual convention as the general chairman do. So they were happy, they were not happy to see us. They didn't really know what to do with us. But they did let us have a seminar, a session similar to this, and I think we had like 4 people show up. So we are happy to see a little bigger number here today. I was just going down the list. We have a magazine publication that was put out a few years ago, and it's called Memories of the National Square Dance Convention. It's out of print right now. There's no more copies available. We're having discussions on doing Volume 2, which would start with the 97 convention, which was in Orlando, Florida. But there was a lot of things in there, and pretty much how the Nationals got started. I'm sure everyone has heard the story of Carl and Vereen Anderson, California, wanting to have a convention of some type there. And it originally started out, they were just going to have a hoedown, a 3-day hoedown. And as they got in there and got to talking about it, and the more they thought about it, the more they thought and the more input they got from other dancers that it would be good to have open it up to everybody. And that's how the National Square Dance Convention came into being, and that was in 1952 in Riverside, California. And they had such a good turnout that they thought they would like to open it up and have another one. So they had another one, and then they had the third one, which was in Dallas. Prior to that, the registration fee had been $1 per day, and you could come 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Dallas, when they went to Dallas, they had their first increase. So the convention has increased all the way up, but Dallas went up to $1.25 per day. So then then it went on to Oklahoma, and that was the first convention that listed both the husband and the wife as a general chairman. Prior to that, it had just been the general chairman. The husband was the general chairman, and the wife sat in the background. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Kissin' Cousin badges. That was when the Kissin' Cousin badge was introduced, was at that convention in Oklahoma City. And these were things that I was learning as I had read this book. We had bought this book many years ago, and I had read a little bit in it, but not much. But when we were going to do this session, I read the whole thing, and it's very interesting. The fifth, which was in San Diego, and in the San Diego convention, that was when the June dates were pretty much established. because they wanted to set up a vacation time for families. So they decided that that was the June when school was out, the last part of June, school was out, and that would be a good time for the families to come and be a part of the Nationals. So that was when the June dates was established. And as you can see, as you move through the years, a lot of changes took place. And every 2 or 3 years, there were changes that were made that were incorporated in and are still in use today. The 7th convention, which was in Louisville, Kentucky in 1958, was originally scheduled to be in Milwaukee. When the National Executive Committee found out that the convention was going to be sponsored and basically financed by the breweries there, they canceled it and moved it to Louisville because they didn't want the breweries involved with the Nationals. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That was the 7th convention in 1958. These things are sticking together. The 8th convention, which was in Denver, Colorado in 1959, and I think if you were in Cal Campbell's session yesterday, you heard him talk about the first pageant. They held the first national pageant there when Pappy Shaw had put it in, and when he passed away, then Mrs. Shaw took it over and finished it for that particular convention. The 10th convention, which was in Des Moines, Iowa, that was the year they started with the dailies. The dailies were not as you know them today. They were full size for the program book, and they just pulled them out. They just tore them out of the book. But that's when that started. The 11th National Convention in Miami, Florida in 1962, that was the year that the first year they awarded multi-conventions. They awarded 2 conventions that year. Dallas, Texas came in and was bidding, and San Diego wanted it back. And the NEC felt that they had both had such great bids that they awarded them both. And awarded, I said San Diego was Long Beach. Long Beach got the 13th and Dallas got the 14th. And that kind of started bidding in advance of the convention rather than waiting until the convention was over and then deciding that they would go and do one of the others. In the 15th National Convention in 1966 in Indianapolis, Indiana, that was when we had the first official cookbook. Now we have a cookbook almost every year. And the ladies have collected these. I know we have them in our cabinets at home. Of course, they never get used, but they're right there. And we eat out so much since we retired. And then jumping on up, we had the 25th Nationals in Anaheim in California, which had our largest attendance ever, which was 39,796. Then we went back to Oklahoma City in 1978. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, there is a statue in their park there. It's a square dance statue, and it was modeled after Pete and Esther Hughes, who were the general chairman for that convention. So if you're ever in Oklahoma City, go by their State Fairground Park and look at the statue. It's really a nice statue. It's not just, it is like, 12, 14 feet high. It is life-size. And it sets up on a pedestal, so it is a very nice thing for the square dancers. Then we went into Memphis in 1980. Roger Marion Reynolds was our general chairman, the youngest general chairman that we ever had. Now we're all old. Back then, as square dancing was coming up and the leaders were much younger, but today most of us, our general chairmen, are either retired or close to being retired. Because if you've ever served on a convention, you know how much time it takes. But these were just some of the things that have started. In 1993 in St. Louis, that was the first year that they had to award 2. They were forced to award 2 conventions because they went to a 5-year span from the time they awarded it to you actually had it. And they awarded the 1997 to Orlando, Florida, and the 1998 to Charlotte, North Carolina. And they also danced about 8,000 attendees that danced on Wednesday night under the arches there. A week after the convention St. Louis flooded. Had a major flood and almost wiped it out. In Portland was when the hours changed. Prior to Portland, in 1994, we had it was, you went in, you danced from 9 to 11. After parties were from 11 to 1. But in Portland, we went from 10 to 10 and 10 to 12. So that was a change of the hours, which is pretty much that right now, except occasionally we have to be out of the convention center prior to midnight, so some of the conventions have had to back them down to 11:30. The 47th in Charlotte, which was mine and Connie's convention, was the first time that a convention had ever been sponsored by 2 state federations. And the NEC was not real sure how that was going to work. And as it turned out, it worked real well. The 51st up in St. Paul was in 2002 was the first one that really implemented the computer system into programming and doing a convention. It had been used a lot prior to that, but not as detailed as they did it. And conventions prior since then have been using what is referred to as the St. Paul system. In Portland, Oregon, again, in 2005, the NEC started a caller cure reception. And this was a way that we could say thank you to the callers and the cures and the educators that came out and donated their times and efforts in helping to make the national convention what it is today. And we will be having another one in Charlotte, another caller cure reception in Charlotte, as we've done before. But these were just some of the things that I had picked out of the book as we were coming forward and bring it up into the 21st century. Our numbers are down, but it seem to be starting maybe on the rise. We're hoping that's the case. That's just some of the things regarding the history of the Nationals. Dave and Sherry have some things that they want to share with you, and I'll let them talk for a little while. David?
Thank you, Gene. A lot of the people out don't really understand what we go through to, first of all, to bid for a convention, and then what we have to do to administer the convention. And so I was going to make a few comments about that. Every national convention is a separate corporation. We have to be sponsored by a square dance association or a federation in order to bid. The sponsoring association will select a proposed general chairman who must be a married couple. That has frustrated a few places because they did not have a married couple. Or they had a single who wanted to be the general chairman, and that wasn't going to work. So there is a married couple. Probably the challenge that we married couples have is to remember that our wife is the general chairman.
Might be a challenge to stay married, too.
We also have to satisfy all the state and IRS incorporation and tax status. This becomes a pretty good-sized business as we go further into the organization and preparation for the square dance. On the other hand, each of us have to provide our own funding. I got to start out with exactly $0. I had to we Kansas dancers had to raise all the money that we would have to get this thing started. Now, certainly you all know about registrations, and I've heard comments about how expensive the National Square Dance Convention registrations are. But registrations really only pay a small portion of the expenses that you have in running a convention. If we charged only registration and didn't have any other income, I'm of the opinion that our registrations would be probably twice what they are today. We also make several mailings to everyone who registers, and I think you all know that the postage is going up to 41 cents. So if you make 2 or 3 mailings, you can see what has happened already to the money that you have from your registrations. We have used, of course, Ways and Means, benefit dances, youth closing sales as a way to get funding for our convention. Local dancers also provide the workforce for this convention. It's been interesting to us as we dealt with our convention folks that they were surprised that we didn't have some paid employee to organize and administer the convention. The National Square Dance Conventions, as far as I know, are one of the largest conventions in the United States. Is done entirely by volunteers. There are no paid employees. Even the ghostwriters don't get paid. The callers don't get paid. The staff doesn't get paid. The security people, etc. We do have to pay, in my case, for an armed security officer. That's a requirement of the convention center. But those people are very few. We will pay for a doctor to be on site and so forth, EMTs. But those are the only people that would be being paid. Everybody else is a volunteer and gives up their time. Even among some of our own dancers in Kansas, we've been asked, well, surely you're getting paid something. Well, we kind of evaluated that and all felt that maybe they think you have to be crazy in order to take this job on, because there is no pay, even for the general chairman and all the traveling and conventions and so forth that we attend. We pay our own way. We have to pay our own registration, all our own expenses to go to the conventions and to do this work. I think some of you recognize the program that we have. It is a challenge when you're looking at a facility and then you're looking at what previous conventions have had to try to fit mainstream plus advanced challenge, line dancing, rounds, level 1 through 6, contra clogging, and exhibition groups all into one facility. And yet you really don't know how many of these folks are coming until almost too late. As an example, what kind of space would you give if you were just sitting here right now trying to plan a convention to the challenge hall? A large hall, a room like this? You know, we never know. Are they going to have 2 squares or 10 squares? How many youth are going to come? Do you need a hall of 3,000 square feet, or do you need a hall of 900 square feet? So those are some of the challenges that we have in trying to figure it out and plan for, organize the space, get the funding, and so forth. If you have been on the internet recently, you might have Googled and found there's a website that talks about the National Square Dance Convention being a ripoff. And again, I think the guy that wrote that didn't quite understand what we all do. That we didn't get any money. We had to earn our own money. That we have to organize our own money and make it so that we come out in the black at the other end. That we have to go around and get people to come to this convention. You know, the day that you can just put up a sign and say, come to my convention, and 20,000 people will show up is long gone. So we go around to all the festivals and other places to ask people to come to our convention, to recruit, I guess you can say, the folks to come. We have a handout up here, and we also have the story that talks even more about the National Square Dance Convention in detail, and we certainly invite you to take those items with you, and I guess I'll pass it back to Gene.
Just one follow-up on what Dave said. If a convention has excess funds after their convention is over, it is required by the guidelines, the contract that they sign with the National Executive Committee, to use those funds within their area to benefit square dancing. They can sponsor classes. They can have outings to get new dancers to come in, anything, but it is supposed to be and required to be put into the local area and to benefit square dancing. So I'm going to let Wayne and Janice say a few words. Well, nope, back up. Yeah, and they can use some money for future. They can put a seed money back for a future convention, as we did, to help Wayne and Janice get started when they wanted to bid for the 07 convention. Wayne, you and Janice like to say a word?
Thank you, Gene. Just a few comments along the line of what Dave was talking about. We had a little easier in Charlotte in that we had a convention in Charlotte in 1998, so we knew a little better how to fit a convention back into that same facility, and that always helps. We got plenty of room in Charlotte, a pretty large facility, and so it's pretty easy. But it's a real leap of faith anytime a group or a state decides they want to host the national. I mean, it's the faith is that we can get the support of the cities to help us, that we're going to get the dancers to come, that we're going to get the callers to give of their time to come and provide the entertainment. And hopefully at the end of the day, we have taken in enough funds to pay all of our bills. And you really run a small business. It takes a lot of, I think sometimes we micromanage as general chairman, maybe more than we should, but we know what's at stake more than the average dancer does. And you hope that your chairman also know what's at stake, but I know Janice and I are guilty of micromanaging our convention because we want to know what's going on throughout it. Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to say to the North Carolina Federation, thank you for your sponsorship. We've paid all of our bills, and you don't have any financial responsibility because the Federation or your sponsoring organization has to sign up that they'll be responsible for any shortfall in the convention. They don't always get to participate fully in the profits that are made on the convention because we are a private corporation and we do dispense the funds that we make, the way we would like to dispense them. But most all of the funds will go back into supporting square dancing within our state and possibly on the national level. And then hopefully having a little left that we can put in the bank and have available if another group comes along in 8 or 10 years and wants to host a convention there again. So the registration for the registration fee for attending the nationals, I feel like at $40 or $50 that the two tiers are, is a very reasonable fee to attend a convention of the size that we put on. And what we have to offer in the way of dance halls and the dancing program, the education program, fashion shows, vendors, showcase of ideas, everything that goes up to make a national convention. Most of our dancers attend festivals all the time, and festivals are great, and we all enjoy them, but they certainly don't provide the level of activity that you get at the national, and they shouldn't. The national should be a special time. That should be where you get to avail yourself to all these opportunities over a 3 or 4 day period. And I hope that the registration fees for the nationals always stay where they are because the dancers pay their own way. They don't have, I'm not to tell you this, you don't have somebody back home that you're going to go back and turn that expense report into and they're going to give you your money back for attending a convention. Callers pay their own way. It's nobody gets a free ride. So I think it's important that we do keep our registration fees low, which means that the general chairman and his staff have got to really work hard to come up with other sources of income to help support the convention. Because it's unbelievable the expense. It's just like most of these things are held in centers where we have carpet. And we know that if we have dance halls that are on carpet, you never hear the end of complaining if you're dancing on carpet. So we have to pay to put down flooring. Flooring doesn't sound like much, but we're laying 33,000 square feet of flooring, and that's a pretty sizable bill whenever we get it at the end of the day to pay for that. Sounding within your convention. You don't think much about it. You've got a turntable and a yak stack here. The cost of sounding a convention can approach $40,000. It's a big chunk of money, but you have great sound, you have good equipment, and it's a lot of expense. So we have to do a very good job, and the numbers have been declining. You can't put on a convention for less money simply because you only have 6,000 dancers attending instead of 10,000 dancers. It's going to cost you the same amount of money to put on that convention, irregardless of how many dancers are showing up. You still got to have the same thing. And we have such great activities within the thing. Somebody was talking today about the round dancers. How many round dancers come to the national convention that are not square dancers? I hadn't thought too much about that, but that's true. There's lots of round dancers. They actually have a convention within the convention. They have their halls. They go in and dance, and they can dance for 3 days and never visit a square dance hall. And the same thing with square dancers. They got their little convention going in the square dance. And I'm sure there we've got the advanced dancers who dance advanced most of the time and the challenge. And so we've got to provide all these programs. And so you still have to have 14 to 17 separate dance halls just to support the conventions. So you got to have the space. But we enjoy doing it. If we didn't love this activity, we wouldn't spend 4 or 5 years of our life and $10 or $12 out of our pocket to put it on. But we believe in the Nationals, and we believe that we need to perpetuate this activity, and so we're delighted to do that. I think Gene said that the Reynolds was the youngest general chairman we've ever had, and Janice and I have been reflecting on this, and I think we're about the oldest general chairman that the convention has had. But we don't feel like the oldest general chairman. We don't feel that way. But anyway, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Wayne. Connie's going to tell you a little bit about the National Squares, which is a publication that's put out by the National Executive Committee to promote the Nationals. So, Connie, take it away.
Each convention has to find ways to get out and get their people to come to their convention. A lot of those ways are the internet now. Each convention has a publicity committee. There are various ways that publicity committee gets the information out across the country to the dancers. One of those ways is through National Squares. This is a publication, and I'm sure most of you know about it, but this is a publication that the National Executive Committee puts out each quarter. The 4 quarters previous to your convention, starting in August, Sherry and Dave, their publicity chairman, furnishes information regarding their convention. And those will go out by subscription. A lot of people subscribe to them. There are other ways to get those books out. We have them available in the different areas to pass them out too. But we like to have you subscribe. $7 a year for the 4 issues. And like I say, all of the different committees for the convention, the programming, the education, those areas give their information to the publicity committee, and then they in turn write the articles, pictures, different things that they want to put in, and those go into the magazine. So that's our National Squares.
We have some subscription blanks up here. If you do not subscribe to the National Squares, we'd love for you to. And nothing says you can't go ahead and buy a 5-year subscription for $35. It's a lot easier than having to write that $7 check every year. So we take it any way you can bring it up to us. Dave mentioned a little bit about the story. It's about the National Square Dance Convention, how it's put on, how you bid for it, different things like that. We have about 25 copies up here. If you'd like to have one to take home, please pick one up after the session is over. And they are free.
The National Executive Committee is listed in there with their address and phone number, so if you want to contact anyone, you can find it in there.
I was looking at just a list of where the Nationals have been held over the years. We have 2 states that have hosted 12 of the 56 conventions, of the national conventions. California has hosted 6, and Texas has hosted 6. Then we have 2 states that have hosted 4 each. That's Oklahoma and Missouri. Kentucky has hosted 3 each, and Kentucky and Indiana have hosted 3. Then we have 12 states that have hosted 2. And then we have like 5 states that have hosted 1 each. As our convention attendees are getting smaller, we're finding that we can go into smaller cities. We're not looking for the big locations, the giant size arenas or convention centers. So if in your area, if you were interested in hosting a convention, you do not have to have a 2 million square foot convention center, to host it like we used to look for. 300,000 or 400,000 site for your convention center, maybe arena attached to it or something, is sufficient to handle it with our attendance that we have today. So if you go home, take a look at that. But another thing, we have 6 states that have hosted almost half of the conventions. And that was kind of surprised me. I thought they were more scattered out. We're running along pretty good, so we're going to open the floor up for questions. Wayne is going to take the handheld mic. Please state your name and where you're from and repeat your question, and we'll try to answer it. There may be some questions that we can't, but our comments, if you just like to make comments, we'll try to answer those also or respond to them.
I'm John Marshall from Sterling, Virginia. Just a comment primarily that I think it's worth noting, especially for folks that may have not had a long history with CALLERLAB, and that's that it's really neat to see this exchange going on here at convention. There was a time, a long time ago, where there were some really uncomfortable feelings between various organizations, and we're seeing that, of course, gone away, which is absolutely essential and perfect. And we're so glad you guys put the extra time in to come to our convention, to share with us, to be open about all these things, because lots of folks do have the questions, and you've provided so many answers, but it's your personal time as well that we know that you give, partly because of the activity, but partly because we've mended those fences some time back now, and it's awfully good to have you here. We sure appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Anyone else? Surely we have some questions. Back in the back there, 2.
Speaking about national squares.
Who are you and where are you from?
Okay. Lyle Beck, United Square Dancers of America. Not a caller. National squares, I think this year you've had some very good articles about your visitors' sites in Carolina. And I thought that was especially good. But one suggestion, the editor's comments should be proofread.
Amen to that. We will take that back.
Robert Hurst from England. It's been said that the National Convention is for dancers, square dancers, with associated rounds and lines and clogging, etc. With decreasing numbers, isn't there a place where we should do something more for the non-dancers? The non-square dancers. The National Convention is a huge publicity for the area you're going to bring into this activity new dancers, new blood. And it's something that we do need. And there's now this unofficial, if you like, ABC program, which works with very, very few basic moves. And I feel that something could be done for the non-dancers. I know in the past there's always been issues of insurance, etc. But I would have thought the National Executive and the General Chairman of the host could actually put on something, even if it's outside of the main convention center, for, you've got all this publicity, why don't we use it to try and bring in some dancers in the local area?
Thank you, Robert. Those very good comments. And in Charlotte, there will be on Thursday and Friday there will be activities outside. We have two large national bank corporations who have large buildings there, and we're going to be using their atriums on Thursday and Friday for square dancing, and it is being promoted. Some of the conventions in the past have had access to where they had arenas and seats and areas where they could invite spectators in, and they have done that. In Charlotte, we're not fortunate enough that we're in a position to be able to offer spectators, but it could be a possibility that a convention could host a dance for beginners or for just new people that would like to learn about it in a hotel that would be connected or something like that. So we'll take these back and pass them on to the upcoming conventions. And we have two of them here so they can keep that in mind. Okay. Dave, you want to comment on it?
We invite you to come to Wichita. We do plan to have, we have an outside plaza area along our convention center, and we will have the community dance program being conducted outside. We will also have exhibitions and other forms of dancing also outside there. We're going to have our closing ceremony in a ballpark that'll hold 10,000, and I'm sure we're going to have more than enough space to invite the whole city to come and join us, those that would be interested. Visitors inside your convention center are a problem. So, you have some convention centers that will not allow that. That's by contract. That creates a problem. But I certainly hear what you're saying about take it out into the community and so forth. We need to do more. I'm very, very much aware of that. Personally, I think we have been closed up too much.
Just a couple of comments about Charlotte and a few other things that we're doing. Our opening ceremonies on Wednesday afternoon is going to be in a small park across from the convention center, right in the center of offices and this type of thing. So it's an opportunity to attract people who are out on the street during that time. But we're also on Friday at noon, we're going to do a street parade in Charlotte, and not all cities do that. We're going to be able to block off some of the downtown area, put the dancers on the street. Now, there's no dancing, but at least it puts a face on the people that are in the convention center that this is an activity that's going on there, and hopefully that'll do that. Our convention center is a public building. We cannot close the doors on either end of that building and say it's a closed facility and no one can come in. Anybody can come through our facility when a convention's going on. We do control the access to the lower part of our convention center where our large dance halls are. Plenty of windows up above to look down and see dancing going on. Plenty of opportunities to be in there if people want to come in and see it. But you're right. It would be desirable to have visitors, to have a way that you could do that and put on some type of dance program. And for us, it's just not possible to let visitors in for contractual reasons with the center. But where that is available, I would certainly encourage cities to do that. It's a good way to get it out. The dancing that's going to go on in our atriums in the banks, Bank of America and Wachovia atrium, it's going to be at lunchtime. There's restaurants in there. People are eating. There's plenty of tables to sit out and have their lunch, and we're going to be dancing there. It's actually been organized by a young lady who's just a dancer in Charlotte. We didn't think about it. She did. She works for the bank. She thought about it. She said, is this possible? And we said, okay, great. And she's organized it, and it should be an opportunity to get some information out about dancing. You're going to be prepared. We picked up an idea yesterday in one of the seminars that we attended about passing out card-size items instead of a flyer that people can put in their pocket and carry away and won't throw in the trash can. So we're going to take that back and maybe work up some cards about where they can call to get more information about square dancing. So it's a worthwhile endeavor. Thank you.
Could you expand a little bit on the what y'all are working on and trying to get with NBC?
Our vice chairman of publicity, radio TV publicity, is Glenn and Margie Israel, and their son is the producer of the local programs on the local NBC station. They've had contact through him with the producer of the Today Show. There's a good possibility we'll have one of the personalities from the Today Show broadcasting from Charlotte on several mornings while the convention's going on, just to get a little exposure there. That same station is going to attend a dance that's set up especially for them. There's a program in Charlotte called the Carolina Traveler, broadcast all over North Carolina, South Carolina. He's going to come out to the dance and film, and there's going to be a portion of that, of the dancing, and all dedicated to square dancing on that program prior to our convention. So it's just a way of getting some more publicity out in the Charlotte area about the convention and what's going on.
I think Harry had a question back there in the back. Wayne, you got the mic back.
In regards to spectators.
Who are you?
Oh, Harry Nelson, Oklahoma. This is my wife, Pat, too. In regards to spectators at the Oklahoma National, if we would have opened it up to spectators, our rent would have almost doubled because it would have been a public event and not a private event. So we could not do that. One thing I'd like to comment is on the cost of the convention. I work for SMG Facilities, Ford Center in Oklahoma City, and I see people coming into concerts all the time for a 2.5-hour concert, and they think nothing of spending $100 a piece for admission. Ours is 3.5 days for 40, 50, or 60. So if you look at it that way, it's cheap admission to the dancing because you get all that dancing. Of course, the hotel, motel, and meals add up. But I feel like we still are one of the most inexpensive activities we have. According to Howard Thornton, it's one of the, those that don't know Howard, it's one of the cheapest things you can get into.
Thank you. Connie?
In 2005 in Portland, the clubs in the Portland area raised money and they rented the ice rink, which of course didn't have ice on it, and they had public dancing every day. So anybody could come by and watch or possibly join in. They may have had spectators to come and join in, I'm not sure. But they were out in the public.
So anything you can do to get square dancing or any of the other dance activities out is great. While we do have square dancing nationals, we do promote the other dance activities, you know, the rounds, the contra, the traditional, the clogging, and everything like that. But one thing I think that really sets the nationals apart is our education portion and the things that they do up there, the sow and save area. Also, the ladies particularly enjoy coming to the nationals because of the vendors, the shops. A lot of our areas, right in the Charlotte area, we do not have a square dance shop within 100 miles of us. We have to go to Columbia or go to Raleigh in order to buy square dance clothes or this type of thing. So it does give the dancers a chance to shop at a lot of different venues. And when we went, Connie and I took our first national convention to Baltimore in 1984. And we did not know that there was anything there besides square dance. We were on a tour bus. They would take us down to the convention center at 9 o'clock, pick us back up around 12:30 that night. 1 o'clock, well, 12:30 to 1 o'clock. And that's all we did. We danced for 3 days. When I got home, my feet felt like they were up around my knees. We went to, the following year, we went down to Birmingham, and we did almost the same thing. Not quite. We did do a couple of things. We did do some shopping and things down there. Then when we went to Indianapolis in 86, that's when we got involved with the education, the panels, the seminars, and the one thing that is not my game, and that's the fashion show. I go to the fashion show now because I'm expected to go to the fashion show. But if I have my choice, I would probably sleep or watch the ball game on Saturday afternoon while Connie attends the fashion show. It's just not my bag, and I don't make any apologies for it. It's just something that doesn't get to me. Do we have any other questions so I can get off the hot seat here, please? Randy, go ahead.
Randy Doherty, Mesa, Arizona. I know callers rate right up there underneath the light bulbs when it comes to the facility. You guys could easily put on a convention without having a single caller attend, I know, because we got records and CDs now. But I was wondering, good facilities can really put on the worst convention sometimes. I know it's happened. And I really want to praise the people that you've had at certain nationals. It seems like the leadership and good facilities really can put on a great convention. And yet, without that right leadership, it doesn't go. One of the best leaders, I thought, was Bob Byram, who we've lost at the Golden, I guess it was the 50th, wasn't it? 2001. One of the things he was going to start up was trying to get $1 added to the registration fee to go towards the foundation. Did that ball get dropped, or can you tell me or inform me any more about that, or what's the feeling of the NEC on that general idea?
It hasn't been discussed recently. I guess it was in having to go back. It was either Indiana or Baltimore when the NEC made some sizable contributions to the foundation. I don't know how we came about making. I don't know who spearheaded the donations there, but at this point there hasn't been any. What I can't speak for the other members how they would be receptive to something like that, but if somebody would like to send a letter in and make that suggestion, or we can bring it back and see what. Right. Well, we contribute to the arts also, and I just can't really answer you, Randy. I don't have an answer for you, but I will bring it up at our meeting in Charlotte and see what can develop. Things like that. NEC only meets twice a year, so sometimes it seems like we're moving slow on items, but we're moving as fast as we can. So, but I will bring it up at our next meeting. Any other questions? Dennis?
I'm Dennis Young from Southern California. Wayne, could you address, Charlotte has a great facility. We were out there for the pre-convention last year, and some of the things that the people may not be thinking about was how many spots are actually full. I'm sure you don't have a full slate of how many spots there are, but there's a lot of slots. You have how many callers listed now for Charlotte, and how many people might be coming on to Wichita, and what they can expect, how much they can do.
Well, callers registered for Charlotte, I think we have 265, 270 callers, somewhere in that range, and I believe we've got 1,100 calling slots over the 3 days. I know that we've taken one hall because we do have so many callers. I think we have maybe more than the average convention has in terms of callers attending, but in order to give them all slots, we have taken one hall, and we're going to do 5-minute slots in there for all day long, just to give them an opportunity to have more calling slots. I know that that's something that the callers want, and we're trying our very best to give them plenty of calling slots. We are going to have the live band in Charlotte this time. That's always a hit in the mainstream hall. They'll be performing in there at night from 7 until 10 o'clock, the 3 nights. Of course, we have the Trail End dances on Wednesday night, which is a good opportunity for callers to get some additional calling. And then after parties, we've got how many? 16 after parties, so that's 2 more hours of calling beyond our scheduled time. So callers, we hope are going to get what they want in terms of calling slots. So, and of course we have a youth hall that also affords us some additional slots. And I know not all callers like to call for youth, and all callers probably can't call for the youth. So we've had good response of asking callers that would sign up and call in that hall. And the same with the Advance and Challenge programs. So hopefully everybody will be, well, I can't say that they'll all be satisfied with the slots, but we're going to try our best. We've got a great couple doing that, Al and Peggy Broadway, who was the vice chairman of Squares for the convention in '98 as our program chairman, and Al being a caller and working very closely with our vice chairman of Squares to do the slots. So, yeah.
We also have, where you have a lot of slots and where the organizations program their own callers, is the after parties. And you get a lot of your, did you mention? Yeah.
I said the number of after parties. I didn't elaborate.
I was thinking about what I was going to say about the after parties and didn't hear you. But the Nationals, it is a great event to attend. Connie and I have attended 20, I think, somewhere along in that neighborhood since we started. And we hope to see all of you in Charlotte and then on to Wichita. The special events that we do on Wednesday night has really gotten started, and as most of the conventions are doing it. Wayne, would you like to talk about yours, and then I'll let Dave talk about his?
Well, our special event in Charlotte is going to start at 5:15. We're going to do a barbecue dinner. It's going to be Southern barbecue. If you're out this part of the country, barbecue says beef. Southern barbecue says pork. So it's going to be a Southern barbecue dinner, and then followed with a salute to Elvis with a young fellow by the name of Eddie Miles. He doesn't bill himself as an Elvis impersonator, but when we were looking at what kind of an entertainment we would like to have, and where the age of our dancers are today, I think most of us, or a lot of us, grew up with Elvis and liked his music, and his music shows up in square dance music all the time, so we enjoy him. So he's going to do about an hour and a half show prior to our trail end dances. But I think we've sold almost 2,000 tickets to that performance, and I'm sure we'll sell a few more between now and then. This is just one of those things that we do to make funds over and above registration fees to help pay the bills. And it is a money maker for us, and we appreciate the folks attending.
Our special event will be also on Wednesday at about 5:15 with a real barbecue dinner. And our entertainment will be a cowboy trio called the Prairie Rose Wranglers. So those who were at pre-convention got to see a little of what they can do, and I think will be very enjoyable. We also want to announce that CALLERLAB has agreed to sponsor one of the trail-in dances with the Ghost Riders on Wednesday night. So we will have the live band cranked up on Wednesday night with the CALLERLAB programming their members.
CALLERLAB will also be doing a trail-in dance in Charlotte on Wednesday night. So CALLERLAB does support the Nationals heavily, and we are certainly appreciative of that. And we're just happy to be a part of their convention. As I say, Connie, I attended my first one in '96. Connie and I have attended every CALLERLAB convention since '99, as we represent we're kind of the liaison back to the CALLERLAB from the National Executive Committee. Do we have any other questions? We still have about 5 minutes left in this session. In the back there with Harry.
Harry Nelson, Oklahoma, once again. Randy, you said we could do it without callers. Well, we attended a contract meeting today and found out we can't do that and have a dance without buying a license. There's a new law out there. We cannot take one of your records and go play a dance. Yes, and each record that is used. I didn't realize that. That was a very good meeting today on contracts. And a lot of things we found out today that I'm taking back to the National Executive Committee and the upcoming conventions have heard.
Over here, Wayne.
Yeah, the license that I buy from CALLERLAB does not cover me when I'm calling at the conventions. You realize that today. Okay. Very good.
All the national conventions do have to, I say they do, they do pay BMI SCAP license at the conclusion of their convention. And I'm not sure what, you just talked with them recently, Wayne?
Right. We just talked with BMI ASCAP a few weeks ago. I called BMI and got the gentleman on the phone, and I told him who I was. I was the general chairman of the 56th National Square Dance Convention. He said, just a minute, and he said, you're Wayne Bowman, right? And I said, right. And you live at 26? I said, right. And he said, I've been waiting for your call. So with the internet what it is today, you can't publicize an event that they don't know about. And I had a long conversation with him. I think it's costing us either 6 or 7 cents a head for the license. It's economical. I mean, it's cheap. And there's a separate fee for BMI, and then there's another fee for ASCAP. So you have to do both of them. But I said, I'm just curious. I said, if we didn't do this and we didn't get your license, I said, what's the penalty? And he said, well, if we determined that it was just an oversight on your part, that you didn't do it and it wasn't malicious, he said, we only fine you $75,000 per tune played. I said, okay. He said, if it is malicious, it's $150,000 per tune played. So for 6 or 7 cents a head, you don't dare not do it.
So all your future conventions, keep that in the back of your mind so that when you do complete your convention, you do send them a check. Yeah, that's per person registered. Yeah. So it is expensive, and they do, I think some of the callers can attest to the fact that they will send you a letter if you do something improper with your tunes or someone else's tunes. That pretty much, I think we're close to 2 o'clock. Just remind you, we have the books up here on the story if you would like to come and pick one up. And we have some handout sheets up here if you pick one up. We certainly appreciate you coming, and we thank you for your time, your questions, and I hope that we have been able to enlighten you a little bit about the Nationals and how it's put on. So thank you very much. If you would like to have a copy of this tape to take home with you, you can go by the tape table up there and buy one.